We're back in the Dad Bod Pod.
It's not an underground pod, although it is in a basement.
So it's funny. I went on. I feel like we could get a nice Dad Bod Pod logo here, and I was on Bing Images, and I typed in Dad Bod Pod just to see what AI would generate. It was so weird. It was very futuristic. He was in like a loft, and there was like a table, and it had two really gigantic beers. Like it would almost look like it was like a bottle of champagne or something, but they were definitely beers. Yeah. And it was some guy in a very futuristic looking bed under the covers, but he had no shirt on, but he was shredded. Like his pecs were just pumping out. He had like a 9-pack. I was like, this is bizarre, and I X'd out immediately.
Yeah, sure you did.
I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna put this in the video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's very weird.
It's like something out of the Jetsons.
Seriously, like it was. Yeah, I don't know. The big AI imager is kind of, it's something, but that's not what we're here to talk about. What the hell are we here to talk about?
I had an idea for today. I was thinking, because this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. Like, what are those things in the back of your mind that, like, being a dad of two boys, like, what freaks you out? Like, there's so many things that keep me up at night that I'm like, oh my God, like, what if that's my kid? I watch the news, and there's got to be something that
oh yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot. For me, 100%, no question, is addiction. You know, drug addiction. There's just so many stories of how kids fall into drug addiction. Sometimes it's, kids are experimenting and all of that, and then things go awry, and you hear with the whole still the opioid epidemic is extremely bad, but it's as bad as someone, I hope my kids play hockey someday. It's as bad as them getting into a bad hockey injury and are prescribed a drug that they just never shake, and then, it snowballs. And
Why is that the one for you? Do you have personal experiences?
Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I had friends that, went down that road. I've had literally that same situation. I've had friends that, experimented too far, and I had friends that, did the unorthodox, it should have never happened in the first place kind of thing. Unfortunately, I've had friends pass away. I've had people incarcerated. It's a brutal thing. And you hear stories, and again, I've also dealt with situations of just like when people go down that road of addiction, just the things that they do, the things that they say to even your family, right? Yeah. And I think that's probably what scares me the most, is just like having to look one of my kids in the face and look at how badly that they're struggling, and that I want to be able to do everything. I want to be able to help them as much as I can. But a lot of times you hear the stories where it's like, you're trying to give them a second chance, and then all they do is get back in your house and then like steal all of your stuff, or steal your money, or steal, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know, I can't ever imagine the thought of like not doing whatever I have to do for my kids, and then obviously shit can happen. There are addiction stories out there of like what people do to each other's family, and it's like, trying to look in the mirror and be like, I have to stop, like, for the betterment of me and the rest of my family. Like, this is a situation that like can't continue. Like, I couldn't ever imagine having that conversation. And of course, what if they were to die? What if they were to overdose on something and die? Because that's I don't know. Yeah. What about you? Like, is the addiction thing like something that resonates with you?
Yeah, not as much. Maybe I've definitely known people, probably not as close of people that have been affected by addiction. I think for me, just knowing growing up and feeling the weight of peer pressure, which is probably the heaviest weight most kids are going to feel. It feels like your whole world at that point in time. Just thinking of like those millisecond decisions that are made when you're, it can be something very simple, and it, people, the first thing that comes to mind is drinking and driving, but like, that's a very specific example, and we talk about that a lot, but like just driving with other kids. Like there's things that you do, and as guys and having two sons, just knowing that like, there's gonna be some peacocking at times. There's gonna be some flexing up, and
Definitely.
not knowing that like those situations can be super consequential, and it can kind of like change the trajectory of the rest of their lives just in
Like,
a fraction of a second.
yeah, see, like that's petrifying because it might not even like be them. Let's say they just, like you said, like in a split second made a little bit of a wrong decision that something tragic happens,
Yep.
and it literally alters their entire life. And it's just like, I don't know, like how as a parent you don't sit there and you look at your kid who's probably distraught, and you're trying to do everything that you can to kind of alleviate the situation. But again, like some people, like you said, they're driving, got some friends in the back. They're just fooling around, and they accidentally veer off the road and like hit someone.
Yeah, or kill one of their friends while they're
Right,
running
yeah.
a tree, whatever. Yeah.
Like,
I didn't, what's funny is like growing up, like, and I don't know if your parents were the same way, but like my parents didn't sleep until I got home, which as I got into my teenage years, I thought was like almost like pathetic, right? Like I'm like, come on, guys, like I'm out every weekend, like,
yeah,
I have a curfew, but like you don't need to be awake, like who cares? But like now that I have kids, I'm like, well, no, I get it, because like that's what you're thinking about, right? Like you don't know what decisions your kid's out making, and you're hoping that the last like 15 years or however old your kid is, like those last 15 years, you've done enough to be influential to your children in the way that like when you end up in this situation, like which way, like it doesn't take much, but like is that peer pressure going to be enough to sway you in the direction in which you do something that's impactful for the rest of your life? Like just like, yeah, like you said, like swerving off the road, or whatever it might be, speeding, street racing, whatever, it's just like something which seems as a kid is just like, it's not a big deal. It can be like the biggest deal ever. And I don't know, we've had some friends growing up that were impacted by situations of just one bad decision, 1 millisecond, one turn a half mile from your house, just impacting the entire rest of your life. It's just, that's what freaks me out. And it's probably, those are the things that were closer to me.
Yeah.
Obviously addiction is something that lived close to you. And yeah, it freaks you out.
Oh, it definitely does. And I feel like too, I feel like the legality of weed is going to play a bigger factor, right? Like,
is weed a gateway drug? What's your opinion on this?
No, I don't think it is. I really don't. I mean, let's be real. Like, if kids are always going to be curious, some kids innately will push their curiosity further than others. But weed is the most easily accessible. It's one of the cheaper ones. Like, so, I mean, in theory, could you say, yeah, well, really it's just because it's most likely the first thing they get their hands on.
Yeah.
But now, because of it being, legalized in New Jersey, a lot of other states, it's decriminalized in Pennsylvania. You can, you can get your medicinal card. It's like getting weed is easier than ever.
Yeah.
And now that's just everything's in a vape now. Like back in the day, like, you couldn't really hide it that well because it stinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but now you got all these vapes and you got all these oils, and it's much easier concealed. And go back to the car situation, a lot easier to just be out with your friends, and then all of a sudden you don't even know it. You're with some kid, like some kids in your backseat, or you're in the backseat of someone driving. All of a sudden they're like ripping a pen. You know what I mean? There's so many of those little things that could be like out of your control that it's like, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. Like it's just getting one of those calls, from a jail cell or a holding cell. You know what I mean? And it just being like, oh, I really had nothing to do with this, but like I'm fucked.
Yeah. And that, like, that 1 second, that one decision, and just like, okay, well, it's going to be that much harder for them to go to college, to get a job, to
do anything.
It's crazy. And then with social media being what it is, like there's no forgiveness there, right?
No.
Like people are, once it's out there, it's out there. There's really no hiding it.
I mean, we see that with like just even athletes now.
Yeah.
like one athlete has a bad game, so some pissed off person is like, I'm gonna scrub their entire Twitter history, and then they bring up something from 2011, and then it's like, oh, this guy's an asshole. This guy's like,
I do love that on draft night though, because something always comes out. It's always like the most outrageous thing. It's
see?
like this. Remember the one with the tubes?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the giant ball. It's just always.
Somebody went. I don't even know how this started, but it was somebody. It might have been Barstool or somebody went through and found like 6 tweets in a row of Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver from the Commanders. He didn't like doing dishes. He was like, man, I hate the dishes. Doing the dishes sucks. Man, I gotta hire somebody to do the dishes because the dishes. He kept going. It was like over months period of just him just shitting on dishes. But like that's an example of like. You can scrub someone's history, right? That's more prevalent, I think, for us, right? Because let's be real, when we were younger, the times were different. It didn't exist, and then when it did, like the things you said, the things we did, it had a completely different meaning.
Yeah.
So now it's more concurrent for when our kids get there, where it's like, hey, like if you say one dumb thing or if you say something the wrong way, like your classmates will see it. I guarantee teachers, principals, like people will see it. Yeah, people interview for your jobs. Like there's so much going on with that. And I don't know. I feel like that's something that like I didn't ever have to grow up thinking about. So now I have to like train myself to think about that to then teach my kids. You know what I mean? And that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to teach my kids social media and this new fucking weird way to do math, apparently, that I still don't know. 2 + 2 is hard enough. I don't need this new way of math. My goodness.
I just saw the best meme. It was someone who looking at the paper staring at your kid's F of the homework assignment you did for them.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
That is in my future, but I've accepted it, and that's why it no longer keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that's gonna suck because like you're gonna have to like go through their books and teach yourself how to do it to help them.
I'm gonna have to pregame helping them do homework.
Like I know 3 + 7 is 10, but like there's probably another way to get there.
There definitely is now. Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely, and just like the way it is of being in school, like I feel like just high school is different now. All school is different. You know what I mean? And
active shooters
is.
Yeah, that freaks me out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of like, I feel like you always just assume growing up as a kid, when you went to school, you felt safe, like you were there. Yeah. That's what it was. And then now, when you're a parent, I'm trying to like picture that, like, we care so much about where our kids are, what they're doing, who we leave them with. Do they have the right things to get through the day and this? And now it's like we're putting them in school and like.
Yeah.
We want them to feel that they're safe. We want to feel that they're safe. And I feel like, unfortunately, the school shooting situations have just progressively gotten worse.
Yeah. It's like a pressure cooker, too. Social media, like all that stuff. Like it's all that extra weight that they're taking on. That freaks me out,
Still, bullying has gotten to, like, another level.
Yeah. But the teachers get involved now.
Yeah. They don't get involved in just banging the students anymore. Now they talk shit on them online.
Yeah. I saw that one kid that got famous for that. He died. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Too many high fives.
Rumor has it he was in the casket like this. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's a different world out there now.
It really is, and it's like, again, like it partially keeps me up at night, even though it's so far down the line. But I'm kind of scared of having to cross that bridge because it's hard enough dealing with those everyday situations for ourselves, let alone our kids who are going to be impressionable. They're not going to think things through clearly all the time. Like they're going to be kids, and there's just so many things that can insult the wrong person, or that you could say something that you didn't even mean the way that it came out, but the way that it's receptive is just not it. And
And that's the thing about kids is like right now, especially at the age of our kids, right? Like you're teaching them to point out differences to show that they
Mhm.
understand, like,
Yeah,
this light is blue and this picture is black and white. Like, but then in certain situations, like, we don't want to talk about differences because it could have the wrong connotation or whatever.
it's
That's
actually that's like
confusing,
a
right? Like,
that's a huge point.
yeah,
Like,
like it just gets confusing. And in parenting, it's like you're always trying to, like, we know what's right because of the 30 some years that we have, that we've figured out like what makes sense, what doesn't, or what you can say, can't say,
yeah,
whatever. But like to a 3 year old, like it's confusing,
yeah,
right? Like there's no easy way to navigate it, and there's no, kids are curious and kids
very
are
curious.
honest. All like, they just say what they're thinking and they point out whatever they're seeing, and like, you know, you, it's tough, right? Like you don't. I don't know. And in today's world too, where you have to be, everybody's
Everything's
walking on eggshells. You're not really
exactly.
sure what you can and can't do. Like our kids are in a different environment than we were as kids.
And that's part of what like scares me is because I think of just like how I was growing up and now I'm going to be so worried about the way that I say or do things towards my kids because of the way that they may then say or do things in school. And again, it's not that I'm sitting there making the wrong decisions or saying not everyone's equal, right? But it seems like even the littlest slip up can like completely alter
Yeah.
someone's life. So right now, I feel like I'm just trying to focus on like everybody is someone, like we're all the same, we're all here, everyone is human, we all feel happiness, we all feel sadness, we all feel this pain, like we're all in it together. But at the same time, like you said, with our 3-year-olds right now, like they're seeing things that are different. So if they see people that are different ethnicities, like they're confused. And like you said, like I can't be like, oh, they're different, because I'm trying to explain that like everyone's the same. Like everyone should be treated equally. Like it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you believe in.
Yep.
And as they get older, that should be an easier conversation.
Yep. But on the flip side, I feel like our kids have the opportunity and the acceptance and culture to be or whatever they want to be or do whatever they like.
Exactly.
And it's much more accepted, right? Like I felt like we grew up in a different generation with, it's just,
We
was
definitely
different,
did.
right?
It
Like
was completely
there was
different.
complete standards for, you're a little boy, you're going to do this and you're going to play this. And this is the expectation. Like, could you imagine like saying to like your grandpa, right? Like, I want to play field hockey like that. You know what I mean? It just, it wouldn't work like that. So it's cool that like, there's so many more opportunities for the kids to decide what they want to do for themselves, and it's more like accepted, but it is something that you're gonna have to navigate because like like it's just not what we were used to growing up, and like
It's definitely not.
we've changed, and like but like there's a lot of conflicting things in like life that you're gonna have to teach your kids, and it's just like I feel like there's a lot more now than there was before.
There
And like
definitely was.
yeah, I would say that like parenting has changed in itself,
Yeah.
and I feel like, you know, like even from our parents' generation, like both of our lives worked. Like that might have been weird
Yeah.
back in the day, but for us, that's like the way of living, and that makes
Mhm.
sense. And I feel like we've done a lot better job of balancing things, and I don't know, it just like my personal opinion is it just makes a family stronger because like
100%.
it's I don't know, like the kids just get the advantage on both sides.
100%.
Right?
I feel like that's the takeaway from all of it is like no matter what we end up facing, no matter what challenges get in front of us, no matter what our kids are going through at school or what, the new fads are or the new situations that they're going through, like you need to try to think of like what's best for your kids, what's best for your family, how can you move forward, how can you make your kids the most understanding, you know, understanding kids out there, and just try to be respectful. Like that at the end of the day, that's like what it's going to come down to. And that also is a part of like what's scary is I want my kids to be respectful. I want my kids to understand that there's so many different things and different ways of life out there.
Yeah.
And that just because someone looks differently or lives differently or believes differently than you makes them any less than or greater than you.
Yeah.
Right? And I think obviously we could be having this conversation in 10 years and the whole world could be upside down. We have no idea,
Yeah.
but as of right now, I feel like that's kind of what it is at the end of the day, all we can do is do our best for our family and what's right for the greater good. There's only so much we can control. We can do our best to do our part in that.
Yeah.
But of course,
there's always going to be something out of
there's
your
always
control.
there's always going to be
Can't
something
control
out of our
everything.
control. But I don't know. So this conversation is going to be keeping me up in my head tonight. So I'm not going
I've
to
added
sleep.
some extra stressors to you. You've added some extra stressors to me, and neither of us are going to sleep.
He's gonna hop in bed. Oh, hey, good night. Hey, have you ever thought like really heavily about addiction?
Yeah.
I don't mean to make a joke. It is a very serious thing. All of these are, but at the end of the day, we like to make some jokes and try to bring light to the unfortunate, shitty world that is outside. Because at the end of the day, life's short. We gotta make the most out of it that we can, and we gotta make the most impact for our children and the ones that are around us while we can. But we're gonna sign off here, folks. This has been another incredible Dad Bod Pod. Until the next one. No, I'm just kidding. Subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
You haven't. You see me?
Yeah.
You have not.
You've watched all the way to the end, and you haven't subscribed. So
Hold on.
just do that.
You still haven't subscribed. Now is your chance. All right, count down with me. Ready? 3, 2, 1.